let's finally talk about one of the more intriguing characters that were shown in the Volume 9 teaser. The character I've been referring to up until this point as the Warrior Lady. Someone who was only shown for one brief moment in that teaser, but someone that is very intriguing to me. She is a warrior clad in armor, something that is battle-worn. We can see scars on that armor, something of conflict, and I think this character may actually be Alyx, the girl who fell through the world, and moreover than that, she may actually be evil. Maybe not by Team RWBY's standards, but by the standards of those in Ever After. By the fact that her armor has scars on it from battle shows that there is conflict in the Ever After. And I think it may be something of the royalty of Ever After, you know, Queen of Hearts, Alice in Wonderland, off with her head, all that, facing off against Alyx and whatever force she's been able to amass in and of herself, fighting against the powers that be in Ever After. Alyx being trapped on Ever After and is fighting against them, or this is where her purpose currently is. Possibly even the reason why she was sad upon returning to her own world. Not only was she not the same person anymore, possibly because she's been through so many battles, but also because she felt her purpose was back on Ever After fighting those battles. And the reason I think that she may be in conflict with the Ever After, or the other people, other residents on Ever After, is not only because of the scars on her armor, but also what we see kind of tucked into the back of her waistband. We see a tree branch. It is very cloaked in shadow, as we only see her really in silhouette, but that very distinctly looks like a tree branch. Is there any prominent tree in Ever After that you maybe wouldn't be allowed to snap a tree branch off of? The World Tree. Maybe Alyx took a branch of the World Tree. If the World Tree has some inherent power in and of itself, she took that branch to be able to possibly travel to other worlds? Maybe, or maybe there's something symbolic with it, but moreover, if there is a ruling power in Ever After that has control of the World Tree, I'm pretty sure there's going to be some law, and it's going to be considered taboo to deface the World's Tree in any way, shape, or form, to break a tree branch off of it. Because, you know, if everyone did that, if everyone wanted a piece of the World Tree, then it would just be a stump at the end of the day. So I think that this character is going to be one of the more prominent characters in Volume 9, and is going to be one of the factions that Team RWBY, Jean, and Neo are going to have to almost decide between, depending on how things unfold and who encounters who first. We've already seen where Team RWBY kind of reunites together, but Jean and Neo are not present there. If Team RWBY encounters the royal faction, as I'm going to call them, or the ruling faction of Ever After, then they might choose to side with them and help them in their conflict against Alyx, or the Warrior Lady, the faction fighting against them. Whereas Jean and Neo, if they encounter the Warrior Lady first and not the royal faction or the ruling faction, then it might lead to an overall conflict between these two different sides, and perhaps Team RWBY, Jean, and Neo will eventually be able to find peace between them, or some other massive battle might unfold that will shape the future of Ever After itself. A lot to take place in Volume 9, to say the least, and we already know that Volume 9 is going to be a shorter volume compared to others, but, you know, there's a lot that could happen in Ever After, and I think there definitely will be conflicts that will take place. Just by the scars of this warrior's armor, we know that battles have taken place in the past. And now, with 6 new characters being thrown into this world, each of them with combat experience, they're likely going to be recruited into whatever battles that may take place, possibly with promise of being able to be returned to their own world, but we'll have to wait and see. I think that this warrior is going to be prominent, a leader of a faction fighting against the royalty. We have seen one character wearing a crown that might be the White Queen, might be the Red Queen or the Queen of Hearts, but we'll have to see which character that ends up being, and there may be more than one royal character in general, as there is in Alice in Wonderland. The Queen of Hearts and the Red Queen are two different characters, and then there's also the White Queen as well. But the Queen of Hearts was more prominent in the Alice in Wonderland story, whereas the Red Queen and White Queen were in the Through the Looking Glass story. And I don't know if we're actually going to delve into the Through the Looking Glass story, as some characters that appear in that story likely won't be appearing in the Ever After. And I say that because we've already seen Tweedledee and Tweedledum, with Dee and Dudley on Remnant. And Tweedledee and Tweedledum are only characters exclusive to Through the Looking Glass, so it might be a revolt against the Queen of Hearts, which would really make sense, especially with what we know about the Alice in Wonderland story, that she's kind of a tyrant that constantly says off with her head, or off with their heads, you know, constantly wants to behead people. So that would lead a number of people to not want to support a tyrant like that. It would lead to Alyx, or this warrior, revolting against her, gathering an army as well to fight against the Queen's forces, and possibly taking this tree branch as a sign of revolt against the Queen, or possibly, most likely, because the tree itself holds some kind of power. Possibly the ability to travel between realms, though, you know, that one stick, I can't imagine how much power it would have in and of itself, because it is just one stick, but that also raises the question, could that one stick be able to transport someone to another world 1 or 2 times? Is that how Alyx returned to her world in the first place and then was able to come back to the Ever After? That would actually make a lot of sense, and right now, the stick just doesn't have any power. Maybe Alyx used up all the power that's in it and she needs to get back to the World Tree, but the Queen of Hearts has fortified defenses or what have you, all things that we will see in Volume 9 if this is even the case. But that would be a good explanation for how Alyx returned to Remnant, how the story of the girl who fell through the world got spread. Maybe Alyx told one of her longtime friends after she had disappeared for a number of years, came back to Remnant, told them what happened, and then after deciding to return to Ever After, her story became a fairy tale known as the Girl Who Fell Through the World. And that girl still resides on the Ever After, fighting against the tyranny of the Queen of Hearts, which would be a perfect explanation for, one, how the Girl Who Fell Through the World, how that fairy tale exists in Remnant at all, because someone had to tell it, meaning that Alyx had to return at some point in the past, and this tree branch having the power, if the World Tree does have the power to travel between worlds, then a twig of it could allow a single individual to do so 1 or 2 times. That would allow Alyx to get back. And if she was someone from way in Remnant's past, like numerous years, considering it's a fairy tale at this point, told seemingly a number of years in the past, that Ozpin knew about it, that Oscar knew about it, that would definitely imply that time works differently on the Ever After compared to Remnant. If Alyx is still alive on Ever After, where it's been, you know, decades, if not hundreds of years on Remnant that have passed since her time there. So a lot of things will need to be explored throughout Volume 9 in the Ever After, and because of that, I really don't know how much we're going to see of Remnant, of Vacuo, and of the characters there. I think we're mostly going to focus on Ever After because there is a lot that we are going to need to delve into. Past history of Ever After, the conflict that is currently going on, and how Team RWBY is going to be able to get off of Ever After. But this conflict that is going to take place, I think this warrior is going to be heavily involved. And I think this warrior might actually be Alyx because of that tree branch that she has. That it was likely torn from the World Tree that allowed her to get transported to Remnant and back to Ever After. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are down in the comments below. Is there anything else that you may have noticed from the teaser that would give a further explanation to a conflict taking place, other than the knight character that is shown that a lot of people are speculating is Jean, myself included, but that video is coming later on? There is definitely going to be conflict that takes place, and I want to know how you guys think it will turn out, whether Team RWBY, Jean, and Neo are going to be divided on opposite sides of it, are going to have to come to some form of agreement between the two sides, and if they will be able to solve the conflict taking place. Of course, they're going to be worried about the conflict that might be taking place in their own world, but since they are here now and need a way off, they might be forced into this conflict. Again, a lot of possibilities that could be taking place. But with that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, that it got you thinking a bit more about Volume 9 and the events that might take place. If you did enjoy, make sure to subscribe and join the Guild of the Eternal Flame. Tweet me at PhoenixKnight7, and I'll see you guys in the next video.